Hi everyone, this is Ari Kopel with Shattering the Matrix. Today I have a really awesome guest, and we're talking to Marshall Masters. And he, in my opinion, is one of these experts that are just, I would say, an expert researcher and just a wonderful author, and just, from what I've gathered already, a wonderful human being. He's a light warrior, just like I am. And so we're going to get along really, really well in this conversation. But for those of you who don't know Marshall, Marshall Masters is a former CNN Science Features news producer, freelance writer, television analyst, and the publisher of Yowza.com. Since 1999, he has been researching Earth changes and Nibiru flyby-related topics, including sustainable survival communities, which is one of my pet peeves. I love it. I just love it. Catastrophic crop circles, impact events, and future technologies. And like many others, including myself, Marshall sees a dark cloud coming, but what makes him different is that he also sees a silver lining. A noble and inspiring Star Trek future for mankind, and I totally agree with that. He's also an author of many just wonderful books. Some of them are Crossing the Cusp, Surviving the Edgar Casey Pole Shift, and Being in It for the Species, The Universe Speaks. And Marshall, welcome to Shattering the Matrix. Thank you for being on the show and helping me shatter the Matrix. So,
my pleasure, Ari.
Definitely. So,
yeah, we're a couple of kindred souls.
Oh, I know that. I've known that since I first heard of you, and in my gut, in my inner core, in every fabric of my being, I have this memory, okay, of a Planet X situation. And I guess I've known this since I was a child, and I know that you've been awake pretty much as a child as well. And I've always had this fascination with that, and didn't know what name, what was it? Is it, I didn't know it was a Planet X or Nibiru or whatever you want to call it. But now, I'm in the position, being, a person that is, lived life, had children and the whole thing, to be able to discuss this stuff and understand it in a very, very spiritual level, the purpose of this whole thing. And so my purpose, like yours, is to help people come to an understanding, come to inner peace, get right with the God of their understanding. So when something like this magnitude happens, it's a no biggie. You know what I'm saying? It's a no biggie. They're going to be intact. They're going to be whole. Everything is going to be just fine. And that is my mission in life. And I know that inherently probably is yours as well. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about this phenomenon, Planet X, Nibiru. But I would like to talk about it because something very interesting happened, which is the discovery, shall we say, of this Planet 9 by Michael Brown and his colleague, which when I saw that, I said, uh-oh. Sounds like an agenda to me. Something's up with that. And then I read, just happened coincidentally, that I ran into your incredible article.
Well, thank you.
I mean, just absolutely, you nailed it. You nailed it. So, let's talk about that. I'm going to go ahead and pass the mic over to you, and let's discuss this, because, the more that we, shed light onto this agenda that these dark side people are doing, the better we're all going to be. So what is going on with this Planet 9?
Well, it's the same thing for a lot of folks out there that you are having, and that's that initial smell test negative result. You're looking at it and you're going, oh, what's the agenda here?
That's right.
And yeah, we looked at it, and I knew it was definitely agenda-driven, especially by about the time that, Alex Jones said, yes, there is a Planet X. He's reversed himself for all this time. He's always been saying, it's nonsense, you're idiots.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden, he comes into awareness.
That's right.
One of the things that you said as you were introducing the show was that you were in awareness when you were a child. Mm-hmm. So that you understand, people in awareness are very rare. in the population as a whole. I find typically that they are between the ages of 45 to 65 when they present themselves to me. However, in about 80% of the cases, they have been in awareness in some form since they were children and have been having prophetic dreams and visions.
Yep.
And so also premonitions, just a knowing, a sense that there's something that's, what's wrong with this picture kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And so they follow it. And all of these people who are in awareness they march to the beat of a different drummer. Okay? And consequently, they tend to be ostracized in their institutions. Their churches are brutal on them sometimes. Just brutal. I mean, usually when I find someone who's been in awareness, they've been kicked out of more churches than I've ever walked into.
Yeah.
And study groups, it's like, whoa, you just went off the mainstream line here. You're not on the thou shalt only ask questions off this list.
That's right.
You're off list.
That's right.
And because they're just looking and they're going, what's wrong with this picture? And they're not swallowing the dogma and doctrine. Also, it presents problems for them in terms of family and friends. They hear the denial mantra all the time. It's all nonsense. Nothing's going to happen. I don't want to hear about it. All right?
Yeah.
And they go through all of this, and these are the very folks that have been writing me about this Planet 9 announcement.
Wow, that's interesting.
Other people have been they're not quite sure, but it's like, let's wait and see type of thing. This was a profound shift. I don't think so much in terms of the science, because as we documented on our website at yowza.com, Michael Brown with Sarah Kaplan at the Washington Post did a brutal hacks job on the ALMA Observatory. And the ALMA Observatory is down in Chile, and it's the largest observatory in the world. And they observed actually two objects. They observed one that they believed would be a super Earth, and another one that they theorized could be an extra cold brown dwarf star.
Interesting.
When I saw that, I knew that, this sword of Damocles was going to hit them.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Chop, chop.
Yep.
And that's exactly Mike Brown, who is this Planet 9 guy, led the charge against them. And they had to subsequently retract their white papers that they had published, not at the speed of science, but at the speed of politics. So there was a lot of heavy-handed manipulation. When Mike Brown then came out with Planet 9, then it was clear what the manipulation was, because Mike Brown and this co-discoverer are basing their theory on gravitational perturbances. And so, which is exactly the manner in which Planet X study has been conducted since the discovery of Uranus. Okay? And Uranus was the first planet discovered with a telescope. And then folks started observing it, and they could see a perturbations, a little zig that was happening in its orbit. Well, that's a gravitational perturbance. Something beyond it and large is pulling it out of its orbit momentarily, and then it's going back in, snapping back in. And they then took all of their observation data on Uranus, and a couple of mathematicians in France and England were working on this, and they eventually came up with a mathematical solution for Neptune. That was given to John Gall in Germany, and he literally just plugged in the coordinates, and boom, there was Neptune. I mean, that was it. Just dialed it right in super fast.
That's amazing.
And so then began the observations of Neptune. That's when, up to that point, Planet X, and X doesn't stand for 10, or it doesn't stand for a pop star or a movie star
right.
or something else.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, all those crazy theories. X in the astronomy world just simply says the unknown. Right. That we know theoretically that an object exists. Not that we have observed it, we haven't observed it, but what we have observed is that it is perturbing other objects we can observe.
Okay.
And that's what Planet X really means. You know it's there by the way it interacts with other bodies. And so that's how they found Neptune. But once they found Neptune, they realized that there was still another Planet X, because there's perturbations in the orbit of Neptune.
Right.
And that led to the discovery of Pluto, which is called a TNO, a trans-Newtonian object. And it was originally observed, I believe, in 1915 by Percival Lowell, founder of the Lowell Observatory. But he didn't understand it to be a planet at the time. And this was the same case with Uranus. It was actually the astronomer who was credited with it. There was an earlier observation, but they didn't understand that they were looking at a planet. They thought they were looking at a comet or an asteroid, something else. Okay. And Tom Baugh discovers of the Lowell Observatory. He discovers Planet X, which is Pluto. Right. And it remained that way until, I think, 1978. They discovered Charon, which is its moon, and then based on that, they were able to calculate that Pluto just wasn't big enough to be Neptune's perturber. Pluto is about 60% of the size of our own moon.
Wow.
So it's just not all that big.
That's right.
It's the poor schmo on the beach that the bully
right.
kicks sand in his face. And
right.
one of the bullies that kicked sand in Pluto's face was none other than Plan 9 Mike Brown of Caltech. Matter of fact, this guy's he's got a sizable ego, probably larger than Pluto, because his Twitter handle is Pluto Killer, and he wrote a book on why I had to kill Pluto, and he takes this relish out of it, and he's the one that's postulating this theory. And I think that what I find interesting with the Planet 9, which I call Plan 9 from Outer Space, and it reminds me of that movie, Ed Wood's. It was a movie that was so awful nobody could forget it, And Planet 9 is it's like an Ed Wood's movie. It's going to be so awful nobody can forget it.
That's right. Yeah.
And with Bela Lugosi and the whole 9 yards. So I look at this and I'm going, fine. They're publishing a paper. They've already crushed legitimate work by another observatory with actual observations of objects. And the reason why, when Alma said that it was a potentially ultra-cold brown dwarf, really made it possible that we're in a binary or a trinary star system, which in that case would make us fall in line with the other 90% of solar systems that are in our galaxy, which are all multiple suns, 2 or 3, so forth. All right, only 10% have one sun, only 10%. And if you think that that's really logical for us, then my question is, we know we're going into the age of Aquarius. How come we're going backwards? How come we're tilted?
That's
all right?
Right.
How come other planets in our system are tilted on their axis? Hello.
That's right.
Could we have another cue ball coming around? This could be a table with 2 cue balls.
That's right, yeah.
And which I think is the case. So with Planet 9, there's a strategy, and I map out in that article that you wrote, and I'm seeing this strategy come out now where it's, one, change the name.
Yep.
Two, change the distance, which equals the threat to the common man. All right. And three is commandeer the topic.
Yep.
All right. Now, we saw this strategy start up with a fellow that appeared recently in the last few years by the name of Gil Broussard.
I'm familiar.
Does Planet 7X. All right. I've done a video on Gil. It's in that article. And other Planet X researchers like myself, the smell test is, this guy has incredibly expensive graphics.
Yeah, I know. Amazing, actually.
Amazing graphics. Well, I'm a publisher, and I worked, I was a senior technical analyst and writer in the Silicon Valley. I mean, I did work for Hewlett-Packard, Lockheed Martin, Sun Microsystems, and so forth, all the big names.
Yep.
I was a contractor. I know a project when I say a project, okay? I know professional.
It smells project, doesn't it?
Huh?
It smells like a project. That's basically.
It smells like a project.
Yeah.
We looked at it when actually we downloaded his timeline file.
Yeah.
What I noticed were stylistic differences and different format sizes, so I knew there was more than one graphics design artist. But the kind of graphics that he has, Broussard has, is don't even insult my intelligence by telling me that you have students volunteering or somebody's sister who could sit down and do that kind of airbrush work on Photoshop.
Right.
Okay? I may be dumb, but I'm not stupid.
You weren't born yesterday, let's put it that way.
Mazel tov.
Exactly.
All right? And, so I could see this guy coming with, he says he's a graphics designer, no online portfolio.
Yeah.
No, if you're a graphics designer, whatever. And it's like, and he does this thing, and I see it with disinformation operatives all the time. Amateur astronomer. Can we just define what an amateur astronomer is?
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
There's amateur astronomer level 1, and then there's amateur astronomer level 2. Level 1 is you buy a telescope at Costco. Level 2 is you frame the receipt. Okay?
Okay, got it. All right.
Anybody, if you look up at the sky just to observe a sunset, or you look at the moon, or you're there for an eclipse, you are an amateur astronomer. Okay? And so there's, nobody came and anointed this title except for disinformation operatives. All right? And it's where it's constantly used that way. Like there's another disinformation operative, Dazza the cameraman, and we busted him as well. And again, this amateur astronomer, Now,
there's another guy out there, too. I don't know if you've heard of him, Bob Fletcher. He's an investigator.
Fletcher?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know Bob. Okay. I've interviewed Bob. Bob's not, he's not an astronomer.
Right.
He'll tell you that straight up. He's a follow the money guy.
Yeah.
His science work that he does is, he's cobbling it together from what he observes from other people. But in terms of his work on follow the money, I think he's really done brilliant work. He's a good soldier.
Good.
And we don't all agree,
Right.
Right. To paraphrase the expression, 2 Planet X researchers and 3 opinions.
That's right, yeah. At least 3, yeah.
At least 3.
At least 3, yeah. Wow.
And so that's the way that goes. But with the Planet, this thing that Mike Brown's doing, and as I pointed out in the article, is that this is really, I have an advantage of time. I've been doing this since my first article came out in January 2002. So I started studying Planet X in 2001.
Wow.
And over time, you see what's happening, all the different tricks that are being played, who's doing what. I do this full time, and so that puts me in a good position to really keep my thumb on the pulse on what's happening.
Yeah.
One of the things that disinformation operatives, and there's a lot of disinformation in the topic, people have no idea of how much there really is. And what's really sad is in most cases, the people, as a rule, support it. It's the reason why it works. Since World War II, with Joseph Goebbels, as long as Hitler was winning, Goebbels was right. Mm-hmm. And once Hitler stopped winning, everybody's, okay.
Yeah.
That was the 3-day fish test on Goebbels. Since then, the tactic has changed. You don't take a lie and make it a truth through repetition. Mm-hmm. What you do is, it's much more subtle now. Everyone understands they're being lied to and manipulated and deceived.
Sure.
All right. And so what the propagandists, the disinformation operatives, all of these people, what they do is, instead of saying, oh, no, you can trust your government, all right? Which reminds me of a housewife who's, laundering her husband's shirt and find 5 shades of lipstick on his collar, and I'm honest, honey, it was just one woman who liked a lot of different shades of lipstick, right? Okay, what am I going to do?
Right.
And the thing of it is that the subtle technique now is, okay, it's out there, people know it's out there, but the mechanism that keeps them from actually scrutinizing it is that they're led to believe they're smarter than the average bear. They're a little more clever, a little more smarter than the average person. They're perceptive, therefore, yes, it's out there, but I'm so nifty and smart and cool and suave, I'm not going to be skunked by it.
That's right.
And these are the very people who are getting skunked.
Yep.
Okay?
So true.
They're the very ones that are buying into it. Mm-hmm. The ones who are going, what's wrong with this picture?
Exactly.
Those are the ones they can't skunk, but that's a rare minority. And the thing about disinformation is they're playing the percentages. All right? And so if they're playing the percentages and they're fooling people, then what is the angle between percentages and Planet 9 and Mike Brown and Caltech? Mm-hmm. All right? Mm-hmm. Well, earlier we talked about Broussard's tactic of change the name, okay, change the distance, and commandeer the topic. So what they've done is they have used, as we described earlier, the process of how Uranus and Neptune and Pluto and the Planet X process that has been in astronomy for hundreds of years. We discussed that already. That's the same process that Mike Brown at Caltech used to develop his Planet 9 theory. All right?
Yep.
Well, why not call it Planet X?
Exactly, yeah.
Why call it a Y-like object? Mm-hmm. And, if you look at his interviews, and he interviewed with Fox, and he said it's a Y-like object. So, he doing absolutely everything to sidestep the Planet X. All right? And so, rule number 1, change the name. So that not come to consensus. The whole point of this information is not to block awareness. That is something the elites cannot prevent. They can't do anything about awareness. What they can control is consensus over awareness. All right? And if you have people who are arguing over something because they can't have consensus, then you can continue to divide them and control them.
Sure.
All right. And you're going to have mastery of the topic.
Okay.
Now, in terms of changing the distance, he's talking about 10 to 20,000 years in an orbit. All right. That's a heck of a distance.
Oh, yeah.
What it says to the people immediately is, don't worry about it.
Yeah, nothing.
That's it.
Nothing to worry about. Nothing to see here. Keep going and looking at your text messages, and what's the next latest movie and the next show, and.
That's right, because people, in all the years I've been doing it, everybody wants to know the same thing. When am I going to see it with my own two eyes? Which is, as a question goes, is as dumb as a sack of hammers.
Right.
Because the right question is, when will I believe what I am seeing with my own two eyes? Is it clear and present danger?
Yep.
That's the right question. Just seeing it with your own eyes, you're as dumb as a sack of hammers, and you are going to fall prey. You're going to get skunked by the disinformation. And so as I point out in the article, the chess pieces are being laid so that when the Planet X system becomes visible, they're going to be able to present something that looks rational and logical to the vast majority of people, that nothing to see here other than an interesting light show. Don't worry about it. And there's no need to shelter. There's no need to relocate. This is what, to me, is the sinister agenda of all of this disinformation. It's very simple. You've heard of the Georgia Guidestones.
Oh, definitely.
And the first commandment in 8 different languages is keep the population under 500 million.
Yeah.
Does the Georgia Guidestones tell us how that comes about? No. All right. And so what is really on plan here is a massive dieback of the human species that's engineered. And this is a tactic that was, for those who read The Lost Book of Enki by Zecharia Sitchin, what you read is that the Anunnaki wanted to, there was Enki and Enlil. And Enki is basically the father of the human species.
Right.
All right. And Enlil is the guy that's going, we don't need these bastards. Let's get rid of them. Okay? And it's one of those family dichotomies.
Yeah.
And so, and if you read The Lost Book of Enki, for those of you who like Game of Thrones, it's Game of Thrones with spaceships and incredibly horny aliens. And, we literally, according to The Lost Book of Enki, which is an autobiography, that is written by Enki, who is actually the father of our species. We came from his loins. Not in some sort of glowing magical moment. The guy was just walking along a river and saw a couple of good-looking hominid chicks, and the rest is us.
Right.
And so there's your missing link. Well, there was 2 efforts by Enlil to destroy our species. The first was Noah's flood. And the way that was done was by withholding the information that the deluge would come, which was actually a pole shift event.
Right.
And the vast majority of humans at that time perished.
Mm-hmm.
Then the second time was with nuclear weapons. Outright came and nuked us. Mm-hmm. Okay, and we, and the nuclear war fighting of the Anunnaki was interesting. They didn't bomb the city that they wanted to destroy. They would bomb upwind of the city and let the air currents bring the radioactivity to the city and kill off everybody without destroying the structures, and wait for it to cool down. And that would be, I guess, for the Anunnaki, that was a practical sense. So there is a history of death by deception, withholding the information.
Yeah.
So how does it play out here? Well, it plays out here because the vast majority of humanity lives along coastlines, which is a practical place to live. You know, for a whole number of more temperate weather, commerce, all kinds of reasons.
Sure.
So if the people living along the shorelines, along where the oceans are in awareness that they need to get inland, all right? Because there's going to be a pole shift, there's going to be a huge event, then they're going to move off the coastlines. That's going to cause economic chaos on the coastlines. It's also going to cause economic chaos in the inland areas where they're moving into. But a more particular concern to the ruling elites is that it's going to save lives.
Correct.
And remember, the goal is to get humanity under 500 million, as per the Georgia Guidestones.
Yep.
So, if people are sitting out there on the coastline, and remember, the stupid question, the one that's as dumb as a sack of hammers. When am I going to see it with my own two eyes?
Right.
They're going to be seeing it with their own two eyes. And what they're going to be hearing is what you're seeing is not a problem.
It's not a threat. No big deal.
No big deal. And what will happen is people are going to want that message. You know,
Of course.
there is this false logic that's been built into folks. And people are described as sheeple, and I don't like to use the term because I see the level of active neurolinguistic programming that's going on.
Exactly. Yep.
People who have been programmed to think a certain way are going to think that way. And the bottom line is, what the disinformationalists and the elites understand is that human nature is, we cling to the bliss of ignorance like jealous lovers.
Yep.
You will not break my bubble, or I will break you.
Right.
Okay?
Right, yeah.
I mean, this is the part, for example, those who are in awareness, 80% of them are in marriages with spoiler spouses, people in denial. Now, if they were saying, I'm taking up, I'm going to join the garden club, crocheting, model airplane racing, that kind of stuff, well, just don't get crazy with the money. And that's about as far as it goes. You just sit there and say, well, I'm not spending any money, but I'm just reading about Planet X. Bow!
Right. Exactly. Yep.
And then it comes out, if you don't stop doing this pretty fast, I'm going to divorce you.
Exactly.
It comes out the threats. So
Yep.
this is the way it goes with awareness. The people living along the coasts are going to be misled, and they're going to participate in their own deception.
Well, a lot of them, too, it's not convenient, A lot of them have jobs, right. They have family members, they have friends, and I don't think that there is enough evidence yet for them to say, uh-oh, I think I better move, The pain of having to uproot themselves is greater than the actual belief that there's something out there that could be threatening them. So I think that's where they are at this point.
Well, you're preaching to the choir now.
Right.
Because I busted a move. I was living in Santa Cruz, lived there for 18 years. And I moved in February of 2014 to the Reno area. Okay. And that cost me a marriage of 19 years. All right? Yep. So, because I had my spouse was totally in denial. All right? And that was really difficult to do the work that I do and then have someone whispering in my ear, it's nonsense, nothing's going to happen. But, you have to decide when you're going to wake up. The first part of awareness is perception. That's the first stage of it. And that's a material stage. The second part of awareness is there's spiritual awareness. And so you go from the material to the spiritual. And that's the whole process that you go through. And that's what I describe in my video, 5 Stages of Catastrophism. And the stages, I mean, the first stage is, I don't have time for this crap. Mm-hmm. Second stage is, oh crap. That's where Alex Carroll is. Alex Jones is
Alex
at.
Jones,
Now,
exactly.
He's at stage 2, solid stage 2.
I know, I saw the video with him. I was like, oh my gosh, he really sounds perturbed, doesn't he?
Yeah. And I'm going, welcome to the party, Alex.
Exactly, yeah.
Stage 3 is share the crap. That's where everybody gets into trouble. That are trying to tell family and friends.
Yeah, and then we're fearmongers, right? Don't you just love that word, fearmongers?
We're fearmongers, and we're fearmongers because who are we talking to? We're talking to people who are in stage 1.
That's right.
I don't want to hear it.
Exactly.
Okay. Stage 4 is resignation. And that's crap happens.
Yeah.
And you just go, all right, I've fallen off all the Christmas card lists. My spouse thinks I'm as crazy as a peach orchard boar. Mm-hmm. The damage is already done. I'm going to just be isolated. I'm not going to stop being aware. I can't do that. I can't turn it off. Yeah. And trust me, there are a lot of people who try with drugs, pills, sex, whatever it is. Yeah. You can abuse whatever you want to abuse. It's not going to turn off the awareness. Once the blinders are off, the blinders are off. Yeah. It's just how well can you suppress it, and that's really what comes to it. But you can never completely 100% suppress it. Yeah. And that's a stage where they start to settle down. And then stage 5 is the universe is unfolding as it should, and that's where you get into the spiritual view of it. You go from the first 4 stages for me are what I call earth-centric. Mm-hmm. All right. It's like everything in the universe revolves around me. Yeah. Okay. Whereas in stage 5, it's cosmic. You're able to step back, way, way back, and you're seeing Earth as just another planet in a system.
That's right.
And you're seeing a much larger picture of everything that's going on. And when that happens, then you start really you find spiritual peace with it.
That's right. Yeah.
And it's really important. And so, but for everybody this is a long process. I mean, for some people, it takes decades. Okay? Imagine what happens when you have a whole bunch of stage 1s and they're looking up at the sky, and all of a sudden here comes awareness.
Yeah.
Because what they're going to see up in the sky, that's not what's freaking them out. That's not what is going to cause the fear to clutch at their throats. All right? What is going to cause fear to clutch at their throats is the knowledge that they are not prepared for what they see in the sky. All right? And
totally agree.
When that happens, when they're looking up and they're in a total panic, Mm-hmm. Hey fellas, you ever seen anything like that? No, Fred, come to think of it, never have, and they're having all those kind of conversations out on the street with their neighbors, Hey, Bubba, you ever seen anything? No, like that. Let's turn on CNN. Let's see what they got to say. And then CNN's going to go, it's just an interesting light show, nothing to worry about.
Yeah.
And everyone's going to go, okay, we can turn off our brains now. All right, we don't need to go.
Ethel, nothing to worry about.
Nothing to worry about. We can stay in stage 1.
Yeah.
All right. Then what will happen is, as time goes over, and this Planet X system with a brown dwarf star in its center and its own planets and moons, and as it swinging around, flying over our head, we're going to have a lot more things happening on the Earth. All of a sudden, there's a lot more sinkholes, seismic events, volcanic events, weird phenomena everywhere. Things are getting totally strained. You're going to have economies in a real pinch because the volcanism is causing ash streams to close down air traffic, and we live in a just-in-time world. And that is really going to play havoc with the stock markets and with currency solvency and so forth. So there's a lot of problems that are going to start cropping up, and what will happen is people are going to be concerned, they're going to start worrying, they're going to start fretting. Then's going to come the second round of disinformation. And the second round of disinformation is where everyone is told, well, we underestimated a little bit, but we've been observing it since then, and it's just going to be a speed bump in the road. You know, a little bit of inconvenience, but folks, nothing we can't handle. We'll get through this just fine. And that'll be the last of the messages, because after that is when we're in deep kimchi.
Yeah.
And people are going to start dying, and there's nothing they can do for it. They'll be on the coastlines, and mile-high tsunamis are going to come tearing through, and that's it. They're going to wind up like proverbial mice clutching to the straw in a flood.
Yep.
And they're not even going to fare that well. And so what will then happen is that there will be this massive dieback. Billions of people will die. Billions.
Not to mention
Keep
the animals, too.
Sumatra superquake and tsunami in 2004 took out a quarter of a quarter of a million people in one day.
Yeah.
Boom. And imagine events that orders of magnitude larger happening. Then you're also going to have, we have so many nuclear reactors that are built on coastlines, on top of major fault lines. Like somebody said, well, where's the best place for this thing to have a catastrophic failure? Let's build it there.
Let's build it there. Yeah, let's make sure that the Georgia Guidestones, that it actually, happens. Yeah.
Absolutely. Now, okay, I'm going to throw it at you, Harry. You tell me right now. What's the $64,000 question?
Drum roll.
The $64,000 question is, why do they want to kill us off?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is a very good question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We're a slave species. We really are.
So it's not just the term that people are just throwing around?
No, we're a slave species. We lead lives thinking we are the masters of our own destiny. That's our little bubble thinking, okay? We don't think as groups of people. Consensus is something that's not fostered well, okay? And in many cases, it's suppressed. But here's the simple case for eradicating, say 6 billion people. All right? You're the elites. You are in control of vast underground bunkers filled with food, medicines, seeds, electrical equipment, construction equipment, all kinds of things. Everything necessary to rebuild humanity. Now, you come up from underground towards the end of the tribulation when the population has been horrifically reduced. All right? It makes things for you eminently easier. You have a lot more inducements for the size of the population. You come up with all your stuff and say, looky what we have for you. We have this and this and this and this and this, and it comes down to it's a 1 week supply for 7 billion people on the planet. It's a so what.
Right.
On the other hand, if population has been reduced to under 1 billion, this is substantial. All right?
Sure.
And for people who have really been suffering through this tribulation, it's one of those things, hey, a bad deal's better than no deal. Take it.
Exactly.
All right? They take it. Now, here's the caveat. Here's what they're going to say. Is that we have all of this for you, but what you have to do for us is, before you're allowed to access all of this, you're going to be chipped with an RFID tag, which is simply a transponder to help us find people with Alzheimer's and get lost, and dogs and kitties that get lost, and babies that get abducted, and blah, blah, blah. And it's all that transponder nonsense. But these are going to be incredibly sophisticated devices. They're going to be multi-mode, multi-frequency, full, multi-duplex transceivers. They're going to send and receive. And they're going to be very powerful. We learned in the Matrix series that we could light a 100-watt bulb, right?
Yeah.
Well, you have a transceiver that's embedded in you. It's pulling on all of this energy. Wow. It can do some really cool stuff. But also, while it is broadcasting information about you, including your state of mind, your location, who you're contacting, all kinds of information it can be gathering and transmitting that.
Yeah.
In much the same way that e-meters right now are transmitting everything we do in our homes. But it's also simultaneously receiving programming broadcasts. All right? And where neuro-linguistic programming is just like caveman technology compared to what's going to come up. And then with that, they're able to broadcast programming to program us to behave in a certain way. And by stimulating different hormones in our body, these things literally turn into electronic Prozac.
Yep.
Now, people who are on drugs like Prozac, all right, they're very calm because they can't have strong emotions. They're just in, there's nothing, that's all relative. That's it. It's all relative. Yeah. I'm on Prozac. It's good, what's your problem?
Yeah,
Let's not worry. And they'll do this electronically, and then they'll be able to monitor you to make sure that you are efficiently processing the download. Mm-hmm. Okay?
Yeah.
But then here comes the third thing, and this is the part that was interesting, because this information on the chips was given to me by someone in the government who was, I have to say, this anonymous, trustworthy source, well placed. This person was very, very, very upset because of this person's faith, to learn that these transceivers, which are broadcasting, can also broadcast to, they can create damping fields to eliminate certain frequencies.
Oh boy.
All right. And, think about it. We get on an airplane and there's somebody wearing those expensive headphones that can isolate all the noise of the airplane moving through the air and its engines, right, and block out those frequencies so that, now you're just hearing the good stuff. Mm-hmm. You're hearing Mozart. And what they'll be able to do with the chips is they have ascertained literally the God frequency. You ask a lot, people will tell you, majority of people will tell you that they feel presence of Creator. Mm-hmm. All right. They feel presence of ancestors. They feel that spiritual connection. Well, that's on a given frequency range. And so these transceivers will block those frequencies. We cannot transmit or receive. And the people who are chipped are actually, for the most part, going to, they're going to like it, because their lives are just going to be a Prozac bliss. They'll sleep better than they ever have. They'll love it. Mm-hmm. Life will just go on. Nothing is too bad to get too worried about. And that'll last for a while. But that's really the whole point of it, is to reduce the population so what they have for trinkets to blackmail everyone are sufficient in scope. There's enough to go around, so to speak, that enough people are going to take the chip. And once they have enough people who take the chip, finding those that don't want it, they'll find them and they'll chip them involuntarily. All right? But that's really what the plans are.
What do you think the purpose of the chipping the people and making them docile like that? What do you think is in it for the elite that are coming out to the surface? Is this because they want the population to become slaves again? Or,
yes.
Yeah? Okay.
Yeah, because when we go through the tribulation, all of the mechanisms that are used to enslave us are going to be shattered. We will. Even though we're going to be suffering terribly, we are going to suffer as a free species. Mm-hmm. You know, this really was, for me, it went back to, I believe, around 2007, 2006. We were doing, after we did the body of our work on our book Planet X Forecast, published it in 2007, and after that, the next thing I wanted to do was to continue pursuing information, and I started reading about all the Nobel laureates who went beyond science to the paranormal because they couldn't get the answer scientifically. And I figured, well, if it works for them, I'm a geek, it ought to work for me.
Right.
You know, at that point in my life, I was born hard geek, okay? You know, live long and prosper, logic is Tweeting Bird. That was me. Spock wannabe, 100%.
Wow.
But I just needed, you know, I had that thirst. I needed to know more. And so we started working with very gifted psychics. And the interesting thing is, once I started doing it, we didn't have to go out and find them. The universe sent them to us.
It's amazing how that works.
yeah, you know.
Yeah.
You know, and, you know, it's amazing. It's just like being in Mel's Diner, you know. We'll take a side, we'll take a psychic, light on the mayo, coleslaw on the side, you know. Yeah. And the universe, bada boom, next thing you know, hey, great, but where's the mayonnaise?
Right.
Anyway.
Right.
And that's the way it goes. And I had this one, she was incredibly talented. The ones that were the best were women in their late 40s, in good marriages with very supporting husbands, who appreciated and supported their wives' psychic gifts. And
always a positive.
Those were the,
always a positive to have that.
Always, there you go. Always a positive, you know.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's not one of those husbands that's, you know, oh, God, not with the crystal ball again, you know. You don't have that nonsense.
Yeah.
And so I was, you know, it was about 2004, 2005 that was when I really understood. It was over a decade ago what the real agenda was, which was population reduction. It was forcing a dieback. Because do we survive as a species with this flyby? Yes. Do we rebuild? Yes. Do we go to the stars? Yes. Those are all givens taken to the bank. You know, the big question is how we go to the stars.
Oh, yeah.
All right. We'll talk about that later. But the thing was, when I was really realizing all this, and I called her up and I said, kid, we do something a little off the beat with what our normal studies are. And I really am just tormented by this knowledge that, billions of people have been slated to die. And calling them sheeple doesn't justify it. Mm-hmm. All right. And she said, okay, okie dokie, I'll help you. And she was really good. She was, psychics will tend to have a handful of entities and spirits they can communicate through. She was one of those who was just like, one ringy-dingy, two ringy-dingy. All she had to do was open up, put up a question, and, you never know who came in. Yeah. But it was always good. And so she opens up, puts it out there, and the guide that came and responded, the spirit, is a spirit by the name of Serapis Bey.
Oh, sure, I know him very well.
There you go. And so the Serapis Bey, an ascended master, you can even, for me it was weird because I found him on Wikipedia afterward. And that was a real experience for me. Talk about vetting.
Yeah.
He was in ancient Egypt. He was a high priest. Mm-hmm. And his whole thing is this whole issue of what's happening right now. It goes to this very question. And so, I was going, why is this evil? Why this much evil? Why is this happening this way? The answer I got from Serapis Bey changed my whole life that day. It changed my direction of my work and everything that I'm doing. And here's what Serapis Bey said. Marshall, the story of humanity is an immense book of many, many, many chapters, most of which have yet to be written. And this chapter in the history of your species belongs to the elites. There is nothing you can do to take it away from them. So to complain or try is pointless. It is theirs. But all chapters, like all books, come to an end. And this chapter is nearing its final pages. And the elites know that the next chapter does not belong to them. It belongs to you. Humanity. Okay?
Wow.
And the only way they are going to be able to leapfrog from one chapter to the next to maintain their control of the species is if they can bluff us into giving away what Creator has destined for us, our birthright.
That's right.
To get us to literally sell our birthright for a bowl of lentils.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And that is how they prevail, is with a bluff. Okay? We're the ones sitting here, with 4 queens.
That's right.
And they got a pair of deuces.
Yeah.
All right? And they're going to bluff us out. And the thing here is that we have, our chapter is for us to be a free and enlightened spacefaring race going to the stars with this Star Trek future. It's why Roddenberry's franchise was so huge.
Yep.
Because he caught that existential sense of future justice and enlightenment. All right? And when he died, that's when we got the Borg. And it took a lot of movies to kill him off.
Yeah. So true.
But, it was a moment for me where I realized that, yes, the next chapter is ours. Mm-hmm. That is if we don't let ourselves get bluffed into surrendering it. And because The one thing we had with all of the different guides, and I will tell you that we used to test all of our sources. We'd say, give us a weather event 6 months out. They were right on the money every time. On the money. Yeah. And they would say, you're going to have a typhoon coming in towards the Baja of Mexico, and it's going to turn and head directly towards San Diego, and then it may either strike San Diego as a strong wind or dissipate at sea, which is, it dissipated at sea just as it was said. That's the kind of stuff that we would get. And absolutely right on the money. Take it to the bank accurate.
Yeah.
Right? All of the species that we talked with, extraterrestrial species through our channels, we had a scientific method. It was me and two other people who were off mic. One was feeding, they were both feeding me questions through instant message, and one was science questions, the other one was confirming questions, like an attorney does in Cross-X. So I would come back to the same issue 2 or 3 times, 2 or 3 angles, just to see if we were consistent. And what we got from other races was a consistent drumbeat. And they said, you're at a fork in the road. And if you choose unwisely, you will be enslaved for countless species to come. And you're not going to be given your freedom until your world has been ravaged. And you're left in a wasteland to die. And then you'll have your freedom. And they said that's what happened to us. We lost countless generations,
yep.
And we paid a terrible price. So this is your time to do it, and do it strong.
Right.
And the thing here is that when we're looking forward at the future and saying, all right, how are we going to have that enlightened future? Are we going to have an enlightened future because we all raise up and charge the guns? Well, no, that's foolish, because the elites, that's what they want.
Yep. I think they have more guns and a little bit more powerful ones.
Yeah, and they've got 1.8 billion rounds of ammunition.
Oh, yeah. Hollow point.
And hollow point ammunition on top of that. Mm-hmm. So, trust me, and they will use it. So, you want to charge the guns with some sort of futile, I damn your bullets with my face,
Right.
Hey, that's your thing. As for me, I'll be running the other way going, feet don't fail me now.
Right.
And, but the 3 things that I have really, in all my contemplation and thought on this, what are the 3 things that are going to give us that enlightened future, that Star Trek future, all right, is going to be 1, self-sufficiency knowledge, 2, hope for the future, and 3, knowing you are not alone. If people have those 3 things, as bad as it may be when the elites come up with making their bluff, when they go to play their bluff, if you don't have those 3, you don't have those 3 things, then a bad deal is better than no deal at all, and people will just, for the sake of expediency, say, let's take it now and we'll sort it out later. There won't be a later.
That's right.
You're going to be sucked into a world of fine print that you don't want to think about. But on the other hand, if you have self-sufficiency knowledge, you have hope for the future, and you know you are not alone, now you have options. All right?
That's right.
And our belief is that if people have those 3 things, they will understand what to do and what is at stake.
Let me ask you a question, and because I think it's important, because a lot of the listeners, my audience anyway, are very much into spirituality. They're on that path, and so for them, it's really, a lot of them don't even care about the physical. All right, they're feeling, well, we're all spirit anyway, and so what if we pass on and we, meet our Creator. A lot of them really think that we're already on the verge of fifth dimensional Earth, that type of mentality.
Right.
So
Right.
for the sake of conversation and to address that, because it is, in my humble opinion, and I see exactly the way you see it, is that we need to, the continuation of the species, but with people that are ensouled. Unfortunately, there's a lot of the elitists or the cabal or those that are underground bunkers and whatnot. They're people. But what animates them? If there's anything that's animating them. So, I just want to make sure that the species continues with those that have, the divine in them, the spark of the divine. So,
Right.
Do you want to address that?
Yeah, it's God. I feel like I should just instead of calling you Ari, I ought to call you Sis.
That's what I feel. I feel very kindred to you as well. So
Yes, and trust me, remember, I spent the vast majority of my life a Spock wannabe. Logic is tweeting bird, right?
Yeah.
That was it.
Oh yeah.
But when you go through the 5 stages of catastrophism and you get into the 5th stage, the universe is, unfolding as it should, then you're going, well, all right, what's really at stake here? See, that's the most important question of all questions. What is at stake? All right? And if you have an Earth-centric view, it's me, and it's all that. Now, for those that have gotten to a point of understanding that, the other side is home. This is Hotel California.
Right.
You can check in, you can't check out.
Right.
But, on the other side, that is home. And for people who have, through experiences, seen themselves and experienced themselves as eternal beings, then you understand this is the way it is. Mm-hmm. You understand reincarnation is the mechanism of evolution and ascension. All right? This is a primal force. We go, we come back, we go, we come back. We're always learning. We're ascending. And souls are going one of two directions. Imagine you're standing in a paint store. And to your left, on the far wall, you see a black chip. And to the right, on the other far wall, you see a white chip. The black chip is oblivion. And the white chip is creator. And in between is every imaginable shade of the two.
Sure.
Except right in the center, there's one chip that's equal white, equal black. All right? And that's the center of focus. And so when we're evolving, we're somewhere between that 50-50 chip heading towards creator. And when we're devolving, we're going towards oblivion. Mm-hmm. Oblivion, it's an uphill path towards creator. If you're on a bicycle, you're pumping all the way up. And if you're on the path of devolution, you're coasting because it's downhill. All right?
No effort whatsoever, huh?
No effort.
That's right.
Except at the other end is oblivion. And what is oblivion? Well, hell is a truck stop on the way to oblivion.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Because in hell, you still know who you are. Oblivion, that's it. Your spirit is expunged of all memory. Cleansed. Started over. That is the ultimate reset switch of the other side. And you hit that. And so that's the reason why, if we change direction, we redeem ourselves. Creator's big on redemption because it's like, follow the investment.
Right.
You've had all these incarnations.
Yeah,
You've had all these guides working on you. It's like, we don't really want to throw this all away.
That's right.
If you can turn your mojo around, baby, that's it. We really don't want to cut our losses short.
That's right.
All right. But at some point on the path of devolution, once you lose sight of the light of creator, then it's just cold blackness and you sink. Mm-hmm. And those that are devolving understand that. And the only way they can stave off sinking further towards oblivion is through obtaining prana, chi, ki, life force energy. All right? And you can only, when you're going towards Creator, you are gathering and creating life force energy. All right? And that's the reason why when we're in a state of fear, we start hemorrhaging life force energy.
Definitely.
Okay. Well, for devolving spirits, see, that's the whole point. That's where their feeding frenzy kicks in. If they can go find us prana generators and get us into a state of fear, then they can milk us like a cow.
Definitely.
Okay?
Yep. That's right. Yeah.
All right. And so they don't have any grand schemes and agendas. We assign that to them. They don't. It's just like, how can I get in there, mess with their head, and really do it to them? Yep. And the ones they go for are ego-driven personalities. That's their quarry of prey. You know, that's their first. That's what you want.
That's what you want. You want to see them fall. Definitely.
That's right. You know, I mean, look at it this way. You're a coyote, and you have on one hand a skunk, on the other hand a nice little bunny. Where are you going to go eat? Right. You're going to go for the bunny.
Yep.
And so that's what's going to be coming with this is when we have this tribulation. And there's going to be a lot of fear, a lot of suffering, a lot of good people suffering.
Yep.
There are going to be a lot of dark spirits, and they are going to take a spoil. They are going to have a feeding frenzy, par none.
Exactly.
And that's what's going to be happening with that.
Yep.
But let's take... And that's at that level. And it is literally like, it is a feeding frenzy. It reminds me of one time I was walking through the surf in Santa Cruz, and the porpoises had pushed a school of anchovy baitfish up towards the shore and got them into a pocket area. And there was a huge school of them. And next thing, I saw every predator in the area. You saw... You know, the birds were coming in like crazy. Particularly, you had pelicans, you had seagulls, and they were feasting. We saw seals, porpoises; they were feasting. And actually, I was standing out in the middle of all this, up to my chest. Feeling this frenzy of life going around me. I wasn't worried because I was just another large predator, and the predators weren't messing with the other predators. There was too much free food, you know, that they were focused on. Yeah. So I just stayed at the edge of the bait ball. And one of the most memorable moments of my life. And so when we as a species are going through this tribulation, we're going to be predated like a bait ball that's been pushed up on the shore. Yep. That's going to happen. For those people who are in awareness, they are on that path towards Creator. They're pumping uphill. All right? And that pumping uphill has nothing to do with sitting in the pews and singing songs and then going out the next day and foreclosing mortgages on orphans and widows. All right?
Right.
Okay. You can't... it's how you live your life. Exactly. It's not what you say. It's what you do. And so those folks are the ones that Creator wants to reseed with, create the next civilization, that they're a clean slate for the next civilization, and that if enough of us come together to defeat the bluff,
that's right.
Okay, then the elites fail. They go to live with the dinosaurs down in the fossils. That's it. They become anachronisms, and ugly ones at that. And so at that point, the big question for all of the other races in the galaxy will be, are we going to, because the majority of races in the galaxy are benign races, okay? Evil ones are just very loud. They have a way of making their presence count for a lot more. They don't want to look like a small minority, but they are. But they're a very virulent minority.
Yep.
You know, you can see what a virus does to a human body. I mean, evil has its power. It doesn't have power. It really has force. And if we can come out of this as an enlightened species, we ascend as on a species level, all right? Then what we're really doing is serving the intention of Creator.
Yep.
And this is a philosophy that I developed I call Perpetual Genesis. And Perpetual Genesis really is, if we look at theology and philosophies, all of theologies and isms which are earth-centric, all right, it's us, and then everything outside of us we just label God and we just leave it there. All right. With Perpetual Genesis, it begins with the question, where does God live? Okay. Because where we live determines what we're going to do. Where God lives is what is going to determine what God, or Creator, as I say, is going to do. Well, Creator has a mission. Everything has a purpose. And Perpetual Genesis is the creation, the ongoing and perpetual creation of life from the lifelessness of the void. Creator lives in the void. Planets, stars, solar systems, galaxies, these are the result of intention. Intention is the acting force that makes these happen. What drives that is you must have life force energy and freedom, and that is the powering mechanism. Intention is what brings it about. And so, if we as a species are more enlightened, we're a peaceful, benign, spacefaring race, then what we become is an opportunity for ascension, for spirits that need learning experiences to move further up into, come closer to Creator.
Sure.
So think of us as, we already have universities all over the place. Universities have multiple colleges. So if we look at our galaxy as a university, Earth becomes the College of Earth. Okay? And so, we can, right now, we're kind of like a very, run-down high school. Here we come, we come a college where, you can get a PhD. And that's really very, very simple, actually. It's about increasing vibrational rate. Because as humans, we're about 50 to 90 hertz. And that's our vibratory rate. What we need to do is become more like roses. Roses are 320.
There you go.
It's the reason why we give these awful thorny things to people
Right.
out of, love and sympathy.
Sure.
Okay, because even a dying rose is generating more prana than we do. And so it's that prana that is really the expression of love. Whether it's romantic love or it's sympathy, but it's that loving expression. So as an enlightened species, moving forward, we're able to just increase our frequency. We get our frequency rate up. It's not, we don't have a world religion or this or none of these other complex intellectual mechanisms. It's very simple. We just increase our vibrational rate. Once we do, we are able to become more efficient host containers, if you will, of more ascended spirits.
Yep.
All right? So, you can get the people that, spirits that are further along, and we provide that opportunity. And so what's the whole point of that is that we're co-creators. We're gods in training. All right?
Yep.
So if you step back and look at it, it's like, what are we going to do? We're going to come out of this with one of two things. We're going to come out of it with the College of Earth and a Star Trek future, or it's going to be Hunger Games and we're Anunnaki stormtroopers.
Yep, pretty much.
And we become proxy. We become a proxy subspecies, and next thing you know, we are violent and despised. We're out there, like the movie Avatar, literally.
Yep.
We're the bad guys in Avatar. And that is, and the Hunger Games future, that's what the elites want. You already have 62 people that control the wealth of the world.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? 8 of which have more combined wealth than the bottom 3.5 billion.
Yep.
All right. This handful of people, these creatures, I don't even know if I would call them people.
You're right.
But
yeah, you're right.
They want to perpetuate that. Mm-hmm. They have a kingdom. They have an empire. All right, and we are their vassals. We are just like Russian serfs. They own the land, and they own whoever's on the land. All right, and that's what they want. That's the whole mechanism that they want to keep in place. But now, I told you all of that so I could tell you this.
Okay.
Because I haven't answered the what's at stake question yet.
Oh, there you go. So we need to hear that, definitely.
What's at stake is actually whether or not we're eradicated as a species. Mm. Now, put yourself in the place of all these benign species who are going, this species is being malevolently engineered and enslaved to be turned into a proxy battle species. They will be given weapons in advance of their own spiritual evolution, and they're going to go out and,
and conquer,
rape, pillage, burn, seize.
Worlds. Yeah.
And we're going to be, and so they will say, all right, there has to come a point in time when we will lose the option of a first strike capability, that we can preemptively stop this species by nuking them out of existence before they show up at our doorstep. Right. They're in our skies, mm-hmm. and taking us apart like a cheap doll rack.
Yep.
That's what's really at stake. If we, are just going to be la la la, if we're going to take a Costco shopper kind of approach to this,
yeah.
All right, then we wind up going down the path of becoming a violent subspecies that is going to go out and do the dirty work for other species that are controlling us. Mm-hmm. All right, and we're the ones that are going to, when we strike, we're the ones that are going to be struck back. And but also it's something where these other races could, if you have someone that is, you've got an Al-Qaeda or an ISIS training camp in your neighborhood, at some point somebody says, maybe we ought to go over there with a can of gasoline and light it off. Yeah. All right. And that's really the big bada bing. That's what's really at stake, is whether or not we become a threat to peaceful and benign species. So I believe that they will help, much in the same way that the model will be NGO, non-governmental organization kind of a thing. Mm-hmm. They're going to help in that way. Mm-hmm. It has to be done in a model of peace and enlightenment. If you're going to go out and use the same bloodthirsty tactics or worse of the people you're facing, then, it's really a matter of the lesser evil. And that's not going to be interesting for the other races, because evil is evil, whether it's the lesser or the greater.
Sure.
But if it's more something where the resistance is on the model of what Gandhi and King did, mm-hmm. peaceful non-cooperation, then that is something that I think will engender broader support of benign races who will come and they'll help. not give us an advantage, but level the playing field enough that we have an opportunity to show the initiative to seize our freedom and our enlightened future.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Wow. That to me is so important, because it really identifies the reason as to why we need to pay attention to what's going on, especially with this Planet X situation, because history says that it's been here before, and more than likely it is knocking on our doorstep there, that we really need to pay attention to it, that it's not just lore. It's not just lore. Something is out there, and we need to be responsible enough to know that we're, in embodiment for a reason. If a lot of us believe that we come from other star systems, and we hear, and my whole thing is that, a lot of us do, because we're practicing certain spiritual, things and whatnot, that we're blissing ourselves out, where we don't want to be present, and therefore we're not taking responsibility for a lot of the issues that are going on in the world. My whole point is that we really need to be focused in our physicality, so that we can make a difference, so that we can be aware of what is coming, and so that we give the species an opportunity to do exactly that, to be able to go into the stars and be able to be, brothers and sisters to all the peaceful worlds out there, not to be seen as a threat, and not to go out there to colonize and to destroy and to do all the things that, unfortunately, humanity has been doing up to now here. So that is my focus, is to basically address these issues and allow people to understand that this is very real, and that we need to be in a place that is not of fear. The reason that you and I are having this conversation, that you do what you do, and I do this full time, by the way. I do this full time.
Really?
Yeah. So my whole purpose again is to make sure that everyone is in a good place, that everyone is connecting directly to their creator, not to this teacher and that guru, and because they said that, and then it's the next YouTube blog post that came out with a new way of viewing things. No, people need to get directly connected to creator, to get their inner awareness and their guidance from that, and with that inner peace, hopefully we will be a very refined species, so that we can reach those levels of not only in attainment and in what we call ascension, but that we can earn our place in the cosmos. So.
Yes, and there is a beautiful future, and it's, for a lot of people it's hard, because when it comes down to survival, it's me and mine, and I don't care about anybody else, and I don't care about the big picture, and I don't care about the cosmic view, and it's survival for the sake of survival. What people, and there's this prepper mentality, and I see it whether it's in the top 2% income earners who, they have bunkers. I know, because they contact me and they ask me for, here's a location. Did I pick a good location? I know it's within 30 miles of wherever their condominium bunker is. And I mean, these things are really deluxe. I mean, they have swimming pools, jacuzzis, 2 years of MREs, and and they always choose fantastic locations. But I call them bunker bunnies, because we're going to have a tribulation of about 10 to 12 years, actually. And when their MREs give out and they come up to the surface, there's going to be some pretty ugly people out there that are going to smell their healthy bodies from about a mile away, and that's when the dying happens, and it ain't going to be pretty. And so the best way to survive this will be in communities of 100 or more. All right, because with communities that have enough people, then you can man the barricades. You can keep the uglies from predating you.
Sure.
But if it's just you and your family, and your 10-year-old is on guard duty with a $3,000 AR-15 with the red dot scope and the custom barrel and the yada yada, ha cha cha, and goes to sleep, you're going to realize that as, you know, your wife is screaming while being raped and the razor is cutting across your throat.
Yeah.
And that's the insanity of that me and mine mentality. And I see that with people all the time. They just, you know, they don't care. They'll say, oh yeah, you know, let's in service to others, and let's be in it for the species, and all these normal, you know, noble ideas. And then that night they're looking at the ceiling and going, me and mine, me and mine. I know it works.
Right.
And so they're setting themselves up to fail. That's the reason why going forward I see spiritual groups, faith-based organizations, as being the most capable of surviving, given that the people who were just perceptive and could see things coming and had the intelligence to manage risk. I mean, that's what every intelligence agency does. They manage risk. They don't look for smoking guns, because usually a smoking gun is going to be next to your smoking body.
Right.
All right. What they're looking for are trends, patterns that say you're going to have a threat issue here that you have to deal with. And it'll reach a certain threshold.
Right.
Once it reaches a sufficient threshold, then you take action on it. All right. Like, for example, I was talking about we become Anunnaki stormtroopers.
Right.
All right. And before we can launch our fleets into space and start, you know, making carnage everywhere, and the benign races, you know, zoom in, nuke us out of existence, and that's it. And so it's a preemptive attack. And so, you know, you look at, for example, what happened with Israel in 1973. And they were resting on their laurels, and boy, did they get caught.
Yep.
And if Nixon hadn't started flying in all of the shipments of arms and ammunitions, it could have gone very badly. So, you know, other races, you know, history repeats itself all throughout the Akashic record.
Definitely.
So, but on the other hand, for us here, all right, if you're saying, you know, you're in it for the species, and if you're in it for yourself, you're always looking at me versus the other person. And how can I outsmart them to get more for less? Right. Right? Yep. It's always the value proposition. You're always looking for low-hanging fruit.
Yep.
But that's if you just see this is one life, one corporal existence. You know, I've been trained to believe that reincarnation is stupid. That what I have here is what I have here, and I go to the other side, and that's it. And as long as I follow the dogma and doctrine, and I go through the checklists, I'll make it to the other side. Right. All right. And so that is, and that viewpoint is something that is the minority of the world. The majority of the world believes in reincarnation. All right. But it's the folks that have the greatest impact and control on world events right now that do not.
Right. Yep.
Once you're seeing things from a standpoint of reincarnation, then that changes the whole framework of how you view what's happening. Because what happens, and I can say what happened for me, was that I started thinking about the decisions and the things that I'm doing in terms of, there I am standing in front of Creator. And, you know, there's not going to be any lawyerly nonsense, no small print, no golden parachutes, no exceptions. Okay? It is going to be what it is, what you have done in your life, period. And all I want is for that day comes, Creator and I looking face to face, and we both know, warts and all, I kept the faith.
Yeah, there you go.
That's it.
Yep.
Warts and all, I kept the faith. Okay. And then maybe in a future life, I remember there was a film many years ago, Defending Your Life, and there was the Past Lives Pavilion, and it was hosted by Shirley MacLaine.
Oh,
it was the right person to do it. And, you could go back and see yourself and who you were in your past lives. And with what I'm doing, I look forward to that future life somewhere, and I just say, I'd like to be able to look back on this life and go, oh, Marshall, you trucked on. You did okay.
You did all right.
You did okay. And because the thing about Perpetual Genesis is that, as I was talking about earlier, so you're saying, where does God live? God lives in the void, all right? And we think of the void as being empty. It's anything but empty.
Exactly. Right.
It's anything. There's dark matter and dark energy, and it's like 90% of everything there is. Mm-hmm. The fact is our universe is swimming in this vast, soupy pool of matter and energy. Mm-hmm. And it's just waiting to be given shape, waiting to be given form. And that's the power of intention. That's what does it. Definitely. And so I look at us also as we're not in a universe. We are in a multiverse, an ever-expanding, multi-dimensional multiverse. And a good way to think of it is that imagine a bottle of champagne on a warm day, and you shake it, and then you take the cork off. And what happens? You just have these thousands of bubbles flowing out of the top. Yeah. All right? Well, the creator of all that there is the champagne bottle. And it's always going on. And then you have all of these universes, and each with their own physical laws. Mm-hmm. Okay? Yep. That's it. Everybody's got their own, doing their own thing. Yep. Find your niche in all that there is. Right. Well, who are we as creators, as co-creators, or as I say, gods in training? Okay? Well, I think, in my view of it, you look around the universe, and if you were to go to these galaxies and you go to these universes, there's signs, CEO wanted, apply within.
Right, yeah. That's awesome.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And so, Creator needs co-creators to keep this process going. That's the whole point of ascension. That's the whole point of it. So if we become the College of Earth in the Perpetual Genesis of all that there is, our graduates will go on to create their own little universes.
Yeah, exactly. That is the point. That is the point. That is awesome.
That's right. On the other hand, there are those that would rather see us become the Stutzschaffel, the SS, and become, this total evil thing that is. And you look at evil. Evil feeds on good, and it does so by perpetuating fear. It's like, twisted demonic bastards who torture women and children to death. Sure. That's how they feed. They feed. Doesn't matter what the logic is. It's a feeding mechanism. Mm-hmm. But if we can get through this, all right, as a species, we get far enough into the process where our world paradigm changes, where acquisition and exploitation is no longer the dominant force of our lives. We stop acting like Ferengi. Okay? Although we will miss the UMOC. But anyway. And for you trekkers out there, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah. But if we can transcend, all right, then what happens is that, and how will we know we've transcended as a species? How will we know when we have become, quote unquote, enlightened? It is when the vast majority of our species no longer defines its existence through acquisition, exploitation. All right, but we define our existence through harmony, harmony within ourselves and all that is around us. And once harmony trumps acquisition, then then what happens is we really cease to become an easy food source for dark spirits and entities and dark races. We move beyond their bounds, where it's really difficult. Right now, remember I told you there was that paint chip, 50-50 black, 50-50. All right, why? Well, that's where we're back in that range. We're
back and forth, flipping,
back
flopping.
and forth,
Yeah,
back and forth. Right. Once we're clearly to one side or the other, the thing of it is that for the devolving spirits to feed off of us, they have to come and catch us. All right, on a positive side. So they have to expend a lot of energy to get to us. And that's the reason why, they make a point of selecting the right targets.
Sure.
But once we're at a point where it's a point of no return for them. Once we're beyond their point of no return, then that's where we really become completely enlightened, free, and we can really have a beautiful species. So for me, with what I'm doing, for a personal reason, if you will, for a selfish reason, if you will, is that I want to incarnate into an enlightened human species.
Sure.
I don't want to come back into a Hunger Games world.
Exactly.
Now, that being said, it could become a Hunger Games world. We have to acknowledge that possibility. And so with Perpetual Genesis, my philosophy is what you do as a co-creator is that you say to Creator, I'm in it with you. All right? I'm here in this life, on this planet, and in this time. I am serving your mission of bringing life to the lifelessness of the void, perpetually. All right? I'm serving it here. When my job is done here, put me where you need me.
You got it.
On another planet, in another time, in another species. Wherever you need me, that's it. Because my pledge is not corporal.
Exactly.
My pledge is spiritual, and it transcends this life.
Yep.
And that's where you're saying, I'm all in.
Boy, oh boy. That's exactly amazing. That is exactly the way I view it. And that's exactly what I try to teach people. and many do see it that way, by the way. Thank God. Thank God for that. So, wow, yeah, that's exactly it.
Yeah, it's the reason Jennifer and I created Knowledge Mountain Church of Perpetual Genesis. It's a teaching church. It's non-denominational. And so if what you got works, don't fix it. Ain't broke, don't fix it. We just fill in the gaps for people who are in awareness. So we're not a big tent. We're just a way for people to come together who are spiritually in awareness. And we're growing, we're getting people each week, and the people that we're getting, I'm really excited about. I didn't even dream that it would be this good.
Wow.
But I told you about my 5 stages of catastrophism, and all of the people that are coming into the church are 4s and 5s.
Wow.
And so the point of it is that I just want them to have a place to talk with people without being bashed.
Definitely.
That they have brothers and sisters in awareness, and they can talk about awareness issues without having to look over their shoulder. But it's also a point of useful skills.
Sure.
And because, the big complaint that I get from people in awareness is that what's the point of being an aware? I can't afford beans, bullets, and bunkers.
Right. That's right.
Okay.
That is a
so
problem.
if I can't buy a bunker, if I can't get a $500,000 bunker, why the hell should I be in awareness?
Right.
Okay.
It becomes a curse at that point.
It becomes a curse,
Yeah.
but it's how you look at things. Whether the glass is half empty or the glass is half full. Now, here the prevailing adage, and on my website, both at yowza.com, that's YOWUSA.com, and knowledgemountain.org, that's our church site, and I keep the two of them. I keep doing my science the way I've always done my science, and that's the way I'm going to do it.
Right.
All right. That's I can't let go of my geek. Okay. I can't let go of my
It's
inner
that
geek.
Star Trek thing.
I mean, it is still sitting in there going, are you vetting your own intelligence, But there's the spiritual side of me where I'm getting the hope to go on in a sense of mission and purpose, and that's the church. But there's an article, 5 Steps to Survival. All right. And here's where I really take this issue on of, well, what's the point of being in awareness if I can't afford it? Well, I can tell you folks that are in awareness are scattered all over the place. They're not concentrated in one area.
Right.
That's a real advantage. That's survivability.
Sure.
And for those of you out there who are listening to this conversation, if you're in awareness, the reason why you are aware is not because God says, here's your checkbook, go buy a bunker.
Right.
There's plenty of material-minded people who are going to do that. All right. Your purpose in this life as someone who is in awareness, and has probably been since you were a child, is that you are a teacher, a mentor, and a comforter. That is your role.
So true.
And you will teach people, because remember, think about all the time it's taken for you to cope with your awareness and to study it and to evaluate it. And think about the people who are all of a sudden going to have to do that on-the-job training.
That's right.
Okay, they're doing it at the same time that they're trying to survive. All right? You're going to be helping them. You're going to be mentoring leaders of communities, helping them. You're going to become a part of their brain trust to help them make noble and righteous decisions. All right? Not that they won't have any shortage of impossible decisions to make every day. They will.
Yeah.
And then you have the role of comforter. You're the one that, when people are starting to lay their heads down at night and their last prayer that crosses their lips is, Dear God, I'm so tired of this existence, this brutal day by day. Please take me in my sleep. People will do that. They'll put their heads down praying, take me in my sleep. If they're very lucky and deserving, Creator will. And if they have lessons to learn, they wake up in the morning. And it's another day. And that's when they need to find someone who's in awareness, who can comfort them and encourage them to get up and keep going in the right direction and to walk humbly with their God. All right? And that's your role. So what you have to do is pre-position yourself. I go into length in the article about it, but it really comes back to the Buddhist adage of when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. Now, we always think about that in terms of us being the student. And our perception of that adage is when we're ready, after all our struggle, we've gone through all of the god-awful, stinky stuff we had to stomp through.
Yeah.
All right, now we're ready.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, mysteriously, our teacher just, like Scotty, beamed them down. Zoom! Appears right in front of us. Okay? Well, that's how we think about it. But as someone in awareness, you have to flip that. You have to treat it as a duality. where you don't see yourself as the student, you see yourself as the teacher. Now, when you see yourself as the teacher, what does that mean? Well, you know you're a teacher. You know you possess extraordinary knowledge, and that your mission is to pay it forward, to pass that on. All right? So what are you going to do? First thing you're going to do is you're going to position yourself in an area where you're going to have likely pools of candidates for students. Mm-hmm. Then you're going to select the one pool that has the strongest number of excellent candidates, and you're going to watch them closely until you see one that steps ahead of the crowd. And then you'll know. And you will go to that student that has stepped out of the crowd and is ready to take the next leap forward, and you will beam yourself down and magically appear out of nowhere. Mm-hmm. And that is what you do. So it's a matter of pre-positioning yourself. Ergo, if you're living on a coastline, it's time to bust a move. Yeah. I call it busting a move because you have to bust up your life to do it.
You do, yeah.
All right? You really do. And, my first year after I moved was god-awful difficult. Mm-hmm. God-awful difficult. Yep. And with a divorce and with all of the downsides of it, but looking back, I'm glad that I did. And it was. And here's an interesting thing for those of you in awareness, and you have spoiler spouses that are sitting there with their thumb on the red divorce button,
or family members.
Bing, 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 huh?
Family members too can do that. Yeah.
Oh, family members too, absolutely. Yeah. And but with spouses, it's direct and painful. Okay, it's every day. Right. It's coming across the pillow. Yeah. And Aunt Emma might be a sweet old antagonist, but you're not going to catch it across the pillow from Aunt Emma. But from your wife, you sure will.
That's true.
Okay,
yeah.
Or your husband.
That's right.
And what we found is that those who, interestingly enough, it's the ones in awareness who file. Mm-hmm. If for no other reason than peace of mind, Mm-hmm.
Big time.
Enough already. Naida, right. Leave me alone. Leave me alone. Can I have some peace of mind? Yeah. I'm tired of all these threats and humiliations. Yeah. And then what happens is, in that case, that's where I got. And then, boom, I met a woman who will be my mission wife.
There you go.
And we're getting married on Valentine's Day. Oh, and wow. Jennifer has been she's been in planning and preparation for twice as long as I have.
Wow, isn't that amazing?
She teaches me.
Wow, that is just amazing.
Yeah.
And congratulations, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. And, I was told by so many people when I published and I let my readers know about that, and they said, here's how it's going to work. Sure enough, it was. And I was going, wow, I'm not that one idiot alone.
That's right. That's right.
It happens time and time again.
It does.
So, you have to relocate. You're looking for the right kind of areas. I detail that in the article, which is on Yowza and on knowledgemountain.org. Okay. And then, it's positioning yourself. There are things that you can do right now that, if you can't afford a bunker to build a bunker, what you can afford is to acquire skills that are going to be in demand. So the top of the list is ham radio license. Sure. Learn amateur radio. Mm-hmm. There's the ARRL, that's the American Radio, I believe it's the league. And so their motto is, when all else fails, amateur radio. Mm-hmm. Think about Katrina. Everything collapsed. All communication collapsed. All that was left was ham radio operators. Mm-hmm. Okay. And they kept things from going to insanity. And I think if there's one deciding technology that will move us towards a Star Trek future as opposed to a Hunger Games future, it will be amateur radio. So for a few $100s, you can get an inexpensive radio, you know, a little handheld in the 2-meter band, and you use repeaters locally, and you can talk to people, do all kinds of things. You get your license. Jennifer and I, we got our technician's license last year.
Nice.
She then went on to get her general. Go for my general, and with the general is important because it gives you, with the technician, you're primarily VHF, UHF, but you can get into HF, high frequency. This gives you data packets, Morse code, international connectivity. It really expands your reach. The basic technician license is good for the U.S., but and you can do a certain amount of things in it that you, with that license, that you can with the general license. But general gives you, the world's your oyster. So that's, you want to get general. The other thing you want to do is, and Jennifer and I just completed it, it's called CERT. And this is run by FEMA, and it's standardized training throughout the country. Community emergency response teams, these are volunteers. And we finished our basic instruction, which was 2 weeks, was pretty intensive, about 36 hours of instruction. And you get certified. Now, also in combination with that is something called ARES. And this is run through, on the amateur radio side, which is Amateur Radio Emergency System. Now, these are the people who are actually keeping things going. You know, when stuff is breaking down, they're the ones that, the ARES hams are, you know, connecting people with hospitals, making sure, you know, things get to where they need to be, that you're dealing with the crisis. And it's a very important group, and they're taking on a larger and larger role, and more governments, you know, are going, where's our ARES volunteers? Where's our CERT volunteers? Well, the thing here is you have a radio's license, you have ARES, you have CERT. This stuff with CERT, you just contact like your local sheriff's office. The training is free. Cool. You know, you can volunteer, and then there's training on top of that is amazing. I mean, you can just, if you were to take as a CERT volunteer, once you're actually been accepted as a CERT volunteer, and you've certified through FEMA on the emergency model, then they're going to have classes on a wide range of things that would cost you a bloody fortune.
Sure, yeah.
But because you're in CERT, it's free.
Wow.
Now, let's say you're doing ARES, you're certified on FEMA, you have ham radio, you have a few radios, this is just a few $100s and some time, all right? In a catastrophe, you could walk in to a government emergency command center, and they're going to go, "Oh, we want you.
Yeah,
yes, right. Come with me. Right. Come with me." All right. Well, now let's talk about who are going to be the most likely survivors that can pull together a viable community of 100 or more people and bring it together. That's faith-based organizations. For 3 reasons, faith-based organizations have an existing chain of command. That's important. Yeah, they're political, but they have a chain of command. The second thing is that they have a proven ability, a logistics ability in disasters. It could take a church 30 years to build a library. It'll take them 3 days to respond to a tornado. Okay? And they can organize materials and people at just absolutely warp speed.
Sure.
Faster than anything else. You know, a lot of people don't understand that NGOs, all the governments brag about how much money they spend on aid and assistance. NGOs do twice as much as all the governments put together.
NGOs meaning?
Non-governmental organizations. Like, Doctors Without Borders and things like that.
Okay.
Folks that just go out and help people.
Sure.
For love, for a noble reason.
Yeah.
Who the fuck?
Right.
So then the third advantage of a faith-based organization is diversity of skills.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why you're there is to go walk with God, to celebrate your love of Creator with other people.
Sure.
And however you want to do it. Well, the person sitting in front of you could be a doctor, to the left of you a sanitation worker, to the right an office clerk. You got people from different walks of life, but maybe that office worker is a super duper ham radio operator. Maybe that sanitation worker is a gun safety instructor.
Oh yeah.
Part-time.
Yeah.
In other words, these are people coming from a diversity of skills with liaison networks to really useful groups.
Sure.
And so you have an HR, a human resource capability, with a faith-based organization that you're not going to have with a for-profit, which is going to be, objective driven and staffing to that objective. Mm-hmm. All right?
That makes sense.
So these are the three things that faith-based organizations have going for them. So now let's go back to the old adage that I said, all right, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. All right.
Okay.
Well, if you position yourself in the right place, then you're already networking with different FBOs, and you're knowing which ones are strong, and you know which ones are going to be more likely to pull together and take action, and the ones that are going to go,
Right.
You don't want them. You don't want the boo-boo-boo-boo types.
Definitely.
All right, you want the ones that are willing and committed, and they can take action.
Sure.
Yep. Basically, people who are willing to believe their own lying eyes.
Yep.
And then you're pre-positioned in those organizations. Now, right now I'm working on my next book, and my next book is written specifically for there's two audiences for the book. The one that is obvious, the one that is not. The one that is not obvious is that it's for the folks in awareness that I'm talking to in my church, Knowledge Mountain.
Cool.
All right? But the obvious audience is going to be the leaders of faith-based organizations, who are, like everybody else, standing out on the street, pointing up at the sky and pooping their collective pants. Remember, fellas? You ever seen anything like that? No? No, Harry, never have. And what do you think it means? And so let's find somebody who can explain it to us, because we're too stupid to sort it out on our own, and people are going to do that. And that's a doctrinal thinker. Doctrinal thinkers always have to let somebody else think for them.
Exactly. Yeah, right.
They don't do their own thinking.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of reports about FEMA has a secret training program with church leaders they come in, they're certified, and they're put under very tight non-disclosure agreements, and their job is to just simply echo the government line with their congregations. So let's just believe in what FEMA and Homeland Security are telling us, and trust them to have our best interests at heart. And but then there's going to be the leaders of small congregations who are going to go, no, I'm not doing that.
Right.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to believe my own lying eyes. And they're going to. We're going to have a period of a few months here that we can do something, we can organize, we can pull together. And now, if you're in awareness, you've been networking, and you followed my 5 steps to survival strategy, you're going to be zoned in on the number 1 candidate in your area, town, where you're at. And then town should be less than 10,000 population and remote from other major centers. and you're already wired in, and and that's when you show up and you go, well, guess what? Here's my badge. Here's my call sign for my ham radio. Here's my Aries badge. Here's my CERT badge. You're wearing your safety helmet, your goggles, the whole thing. You walk in there.
Uh-huh.
I'm trained for disaster management.
That's right.
Certified. Mm-hmm. I can volunteer to help you, or I can just go to the government, and I can work for them. What do you suggest?
Right.
So you give them the obvious thing that,
sure.
Yeah, I'm worth my weight in beans.
Definitely.
Okay. And then once you're in and they're seeing that you can really, as I always say, performance talks, bullshit walks.
Mm-hmm.
All right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you got to, talk the talk. Everybody talks the talk. You got to walk the walk. You got to do it. They got to see you doing things that are smart and intelligent and happening. And then that's when you go up to the leader of the congregation, and that's the moment I'm writing this book for.
Good.
Because the book is from the standpoint of, hello, you're in your first day of awareness and you're trying to get your flock to safety, all right?
Mm-hmm.
And what I do is chapter by chapter, I walk you through the management process. How you pull together your resources, your people, your vision, how you take it forward so that you can present something that people will follow. They'll have confidence in.
So is it more like a manual?
I would, it's the book is written more like a management guide. Okay. And this is where I go back, everything in your life kind of prepares you for other things. Sure. And I did what was called MARCOM writing, marketing collateral writing, for Hewlett-Packard, Sun Microsystems, Oracle, so forth. And I was very good at it, very much in demand when I was working in the field. And I was good at explaining complex technologies to decision makers with checkbooks who could barely figure out Excel.
Wow.
Okay?
Yeah.
And so that's what I did. Well, I'm just doing that with this book.
That's great.
I'm going back to this old stuff where I'm saying, okay, here you are, you're in deep kimchi. Here's what you're going to do day by day. Here's how you're going to unfold your plan. So the chapters are not topical. The chapters are more like a Gantt chart, taking you through each major phase of your project with all of your sub-phases running in parallel.
Good.
And so it's the kind of book that will help them to give them, more important than anything else, to give them, it's not a how-to book. I'm not saying this is exactly how you do it.
Right. But it's a guide.
It's a reference.
A reference book, okay.
It's something for you to start an intelligent conversation.
Good.
Because as a management, the important thing is not to have the ultimate idea. Mm-hmm. It's to have a workable idea that people will say, maybe I would do it differently, but I can see that that'll work, so I'll participate.
When do you expect the book to come out? Or when are you done with it?
I'm hoping to have this, I'm looking forward to have it done by the end of February.
Oh, good.
And I'm 60% through it. They're the most difficult aspects of it, the strategic planning, and the next step for me is to do the tactical chapters.
Okay, good. Well, we're looking forward to it. Do you have a title for it yet?
Yes, it'll be titled Surviving the Planet X Tribulation, the First Solution for the Last to Know.
Oh, wow. That is an excellent title. Awesome. Well, we're going to be definitely looking out for that book. We've come to the end of this section because we're going to have a couple of other chats at some point, and I really thank you very much for spending time with us today, and there's just so much to talk about. This is not even scratching the tip of the iceberg, for sure. But just wanted to, again, let the audience know where they can find you, and that's at YOWUSA.com. And what's the website for your church?
KnowledgeMountain.org.
KnowledgeMountain.org. Fantastic. And I'm sure a lot of people can go in there and get all the information they need. You're also invited to join my website, which is 2012emergence.com, where we talk about all these things and then some. We're about 5,600 members and strong and getting stronger. And also to, check out my 2 books, which I've addressed a lot of the things that we've been talking about today, especially with respect to the deception of the dark forces and how to be able to detect that. And also that particular book is called Spiritual Warfare and the Art of Deception. And the other book is called Getting Back to Source, which allows us to get into that space of being in peace and direct connection with our Creator, so that when we are seeing things like this, we're not in fear, and that we can be in total peace and know exactly what to do. So again, I thank you all for listening to us today. You've been listening to Marshall Masters and myself, Ari Kopel, at ShatteringTheMatrix.com, if I can only speak. And we'll be addressing more of these issues very, very soon. Marshall, I hope you can join us again next time.
Anytime, sis.
All righty. Well, it's been a pleasure speaking with you, and take care.
You too.
Bye-bye.